Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of the second season of Muddled Thoughts. I'm Ryan.
I'm Zach.
And this is Max.
Today we are going to be starting our album review series. Today's featured album will be Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. Really looking forward to diving into that.
Yep.
But before we jump in, we got to hit the most important part. What's everybody drinking?
That's right. This time I got a bit of a special one. I'm doing a single malt rye whiskey from Twisted Path Distillery here in Milwaukee. Very, very good. So I guess it's similar to a Scotch in the flavor. It's not the flavor, but the complexity to the flavor. When I was first describing it to you, Ryan, it's kind of like a sweet on the head taste, and then it fades away, and then you get hit with all those rye goodness on the very end of it.
Yep, the spicy rye goodness.
So very good whiskey. I think it's a limited run down at Twisted Path, so if you want some, you got to go and get some soon, because I'm not sure how much they have, but yeah, recommend.
All right, Max, what do you got?
So I literally got the last sip out of the old fashioned mix that I had. I haven't really touched that in a while, so I'm trying to finish that stuff off.
Is that the Soul Boxer?
Yes, sir.
Good stuff.
And I got it in my Batman glass too, so
Nice.
Da-na-na-na-na-na. Ryan, what do you got going on over there?
I'm also representing Milwaukee, probably a rival, maybe a partner. I don't know. I've got a Kinnickinnick whiskey by Great Lakes Distillery out of Milwaukee. It's a blended whiskey. So it's a little bit of bourbon, a little bit of rye, and a little bit of malted wheat whiskey.
Okay.
It's only 86 proof, not quite as knocky on your ass as your stuff, Zach, but
I failed to mention mine's like 130 proof.
Yeah, I wish I had that. Here, let me send this through the computer to you. You send that back. All right. Yeah, it's good. It's I don't know that they got necessarily the combination of whiskey types right before they bottled it, but it's only $30, so I'll drink it.
Yeah. Better than that get some like Old Tom's whiskey or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, R&R. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they use that to seal decks. I'm pretty sure.
It's entirely possible.
I'm not quite sure.
All right. Well, sounds like everybody's pretty well.
We're primed.
Pretty well hydrated there.
I'm excited, guys. This is gonna be fun. We're at the start of season 2. We got our new layout for how we're gonna be doing things.
I'm excited to be rolling into a new season with a different format and lots of good things to come.
Yeah, I guess I'm more so excited for I guess it's just more focused. Like, it's contradictory to our name because it's Muddled Thoughts, so it was kind of, fitting before.
Right.
But with this new season and new topic, I guess it's a nice change, I guess. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully the people listening like it too.
Yeah. The feedback's always good.
Max is probably not looking forward to it, though.
Why do you say that?
Because it's going to be a lot
editing?
more editing work. Gonna have to, well, I guess you just got to splice in some song segments, so it's not a ton of extra work.
It's literally just closing times,
Max.
except 2 hours or whatever long.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
closing times with extra steps. That's what I meant.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess. So we should probably get going then, because time is.
We got a lot of shit to cover.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover here. So as Ryan mentioned at the top of the episode, we are going to be going deep into Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. They're pretty much their debut album, as far as all things are considered. You could argue that they had stuff going on before, but it wasn't nearly as popular, and under the same band members. But that's what we're going into. Did you guys want to go into why this album was significant to you in any way.
Yeah, I think we can briefly touch on that.
Yeah, do that first, and then maybe do a short biography or just kind of background information on the band and where they came from, and yeah, go from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I remember when this album came out. I think I bought it 2 or 3 days after it was released and went straight to my friend's house, and we almost wore out that copy of the CD. And immediately, it was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. I think it was the first like modern rock album that I had purchased with my own money.
Really?
I felt like I wasn't supposed. Yeah, I think so. I think I felt like I wasn't supposed to be listening to it almost because it wasn't
Ooh.
country or Bruce Springsteen. So
Gonna get in
Exile.
yeah, right? Betrayal. Yeah. So yeah, I have a very fond memory of hearing this album when it first came out, and I do have to admit, as I told Zach earlier, that I had never, over the 20 years I've listened to this album, I've never picked up the meanings of the songs as much as I have researching for this episode, which is disappointing but cool at the same.
Yeah, I felt the same way going through this. I've been listening to this album for so long. I would say probably since its release, because it was released in 2000. It was late 2000 release, I believe.
October 24th. Yep, October 24th, 2000.
Yeah. So I remember listening to this because of my uncle. It was my uncle who actually had purchased it, and maybe it was like set up through iTunes at the time on the old Dell Tower computer. I don't remember, but yeah, I first remember listening to it because of my uncle. So that my uncle's 13 years older than I am, so that goes to show you. I was only 5 at the time that this came out.
Yeah, right. So what? I would have been 8. Yeah, 8.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, Ryan, it was like your first rock album, right, that you had purchased.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, this album was really like what really was a blend of both like rap, hip hop, and rock all together. It was probably the first album to do something like this at the time.
I think this was like when nu metal was starting to be taken seriously.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
exactly.
that reminds me of a point that I'm going to bring up in a couple minutes when we start on the overall album. But yeah, a funny thing that I just thought of with the nu metal thing is my friend Cody in high school. He told me that Linkin Park was the reason why he started listening to death metal. I don't really know how you make that correlation and that progression into like Slipknot from Linkin Park, but you know,
it's all part
different
of that,
strokes.
I guess, yeah, different strokes for different folks, as they say, huh? It's all kind of part of that same scene, though. I mean,
it is, yeah.
Like, I mean, depending on how you classify nu metal, you could argue that Slipknot would be right there in nu metal.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely. I guess, man, I'll go into. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to, because it goes with the band's history. So, Max, did you want to add anything to how you first got introduced to Hybrid Theory?
Honestly, I don't think it was as early as you guys were introduced into it, but I do remember this being one of the heavier songs my dad really enjoyed, or albums. I think In the End, of course, was the one that got the most radio play, as we all know.
Oh, yeah.
But he had that, I think, downloaded, like, you know, when we had LimeWire back in the day?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
We had some really jank, low-quality download version of it. And he would have that on the iPad Nano, and that would be playing through the car.
Yeah, LimeWire, where every song sounded like it came from the other side of the world through the internet.
Yeah, you had one speaker in a tin can, and then another speaker on the other side of the tin can, and they were fighting for sound quality through a pinhole.
They recorded it with a potato, an actual spud.
With a potato.
They just held the potato up to the speaker and just recorded the vibrations.
Like, man, I hope this works.
Yeah. Cool. So I have some pretty decent notes here on the album. Did you guys have anything specific written down? If not, I'm more than happy to kind of give a brief overview.
I don't have a whole lot. I just know that what I was going to touch on before when um we were talking about blends of genre, that was actually an inspiration for the name of the album.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
takes its title from the previous name of the band, which was Hybrid Theory before it was Linkin Park, and then they had copyright issues with a Welsh band. And it was also inspired by the concept of music theory and combining the different styles, because Mike Shinoda had the DJ rap hip hop style, and Chester came in with the, punk metal rock feel.
Yeah.
So they wanted to encapsulate the fusion of music styles for their debut.
Exactly. Yeah, that was perfect. That's pretty much exactly what I was gonna say. To start off, was that it's a hybrid of both rap and metal music. And I think you misspoke, Ryan, but the original band that they had was under the name of Zero, spelt with an X.
Yeah, I was gonna add that as well.
Yeah, and
really
then
strange.
I think they went to Hybrid Theory from there, didn't they? Because of the members that they brought in.
Yeah, yeah. It was Zero,
okay,
then Hybrid
okay.
Theory, and then they went to Linkin Park, which is a callback to Linkin Park in Santa Monica, I believe.
Yeah.
And they purposely spelt it the way they did because of copyright issues. They wanted to have the name but not have to do
Actually,
I know why.
There's another reason. You know the reason?
It's because of the .com wars.
The internet domain, yep.
Yep, they wanted the
Really?
internet domain. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
I mean, when you go back and look at it in context, it was turn of the century, so internet was just starting to boom at the time. So that was their whole reasoning.
If you go to Linkin Park's website, you can click into it, and it's an old Windows 98 internet browser screen.
You did that as part of your research too, huh?
Yes, I did. That's their homepage of their website. It is incredible.
It's weird. It's organized like a scavenger hunt. The README files say I gotta try to boot this thing up again, and I don't have time to
go to the email and
I don't have time to do all this, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Maybe one day I'll go back and explore a little.
Mm-hmm. So for those who don't know, the band members for Linkin Park are the late great Chester Bennington on main vocals. As Ryan said, Mike Shinoda, who's the MC or the rapping supporting vocals part. Got Brad Delson on guitar, Dave Phoenix Farrell playing the bass, Rob Burden on drums, and then Joe Hahn, who's the programmer and DJ for all of the different songs.
Mr. Hahn.
I was just gonna do that.
Yeah, before we even get into it, I think it's really cool that they gave him a whole song on the album to pretty much showcase
they didn't
his
have
talents. Right. Yeah, they didn't have to. They just let him go.
It's almost unheard of. I mean, given the producer and the mixer and whatever, a spotlight, just to showcase what he can pull off, I think was really the point of that song. But I'm sure we'll get to that.
Did you guys also know who made the artwork for the album?
No, I don't actually. Who did it?
Mike Shinoda did the artwork.
Really?
Did
before he was a musician, he was actually a graphic designer.
Wow,
I did not know that.
Did they
Max pulling out all the stops?
Yeah. Did they give any reasoning behind what it is with the guy on it with a flag?
A little bit. So for my research, it said so the album consists of a jaded look of a soldier in stencil, and then the butterfly wings around him. So it's supposed to convey hard and soft feelings, kind of like what the album consists of.
Right. That makes sense.
And then and then there's lyrics around the edges, but the prominent song that's you see most lyrics of are One Step Closer.
Ah, okay. Knowing what I know now, or actually reading into the lyrics, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into why that makes sense.
They actually
the second song.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the second song, but it's arguably one of the more important songs on the whole
Mhm.
album.
For sure.
Right. I was just gonna say I really enjoy the cover art, and I just saw recently that they released a Funko Pop figurine of the dude on the Hybrid Theory album cover.
Oh, cool.
I just
Yeah.
put the link in the chat.
I gotta buy that. I don't really.
But yeah, that's what I was
collect them,
thinking too. I got to get that.
That sounds sick, just to own just that.
But
Also, do you know how many shows they played during their tour in 2001?
30.
No. Right?
I don't know.
is it higher than 30?
It's probably way higher.
911.
No. 324.
Damn. So
324 shows.
they were busy almost every single day.
Pretty much.
That does not surprise
That was
me.
just travel time. Pretty much.
Yeah. I
Get paid by mile.
I managed to
Right.
track down a couple videos of just interviews of them talking about this album. They weren't thinking that the album was going to sell more than like a couple thousand copies when it came out. Like Chester and Mike were in an interview and they were saying like, yeah, we thought that maybe we would get like 4,000 or 5,000 album sales. And we woke up the next day and there was like 10,000. And then the album kept selling and selling, and it was beyond their wildest dreams that this happened. Because I don't know necessarily that they knew if it was going to be, well, obviously they didn't think it was going to be that big of a hit, but they just managed to find like the right niche in the scene at the time and really hit, what people wanted.
I think it came out at a perfect time just because of, the party scene at the time and, the age group that was into that kind of music. I mean, it hit me real hard. It was like unlike anything I'd ever heard before.
Mm-hmm.
So,
A lot of the themes and metaphors kind of go back to like teen angst and a lot of situations that I think that maybe all three of us were going through at the time when we were growing up. Just like all these underlying feelings that maybe we had but didn't know yet. So it connected with us on an emotional level.
I mean, Zach, we were 4 and 5 when it came out, but
I was real angsty when I was
at
5.
5 years,
okay?
yeah.
Yeah, man, you were just in and out.
You
of
wanted that Hot Wheels,
relationships
but
getting emotionally used and
you're like, Mom, I don't want a Matchbox. I want a Hot Wheels.
What the fuck is this?
Matchbox.
Rose art? Rose art?
match
Crayola only.
Matchboxes for bitches.
The wheels aren't as good and the cars don't go as fast. We all know.
I don't want Infantry Tim. I want G.I. Joe.
What is that? I don't want Mega Blocks.
I want
Lego, bitch.
I want Legos. Crank the wheel for the train. Let's get this back on the.
Less steam. Less.
More coal. More coal.
So anyway.
Yes, folks, the episodes will not change with the next season. They're still going to be all over the place.
So I do have some notes on how like the album was produced or who produced it, I guess more specifically.
Do tell.
Mm-hmm.
So it was mixed by Andy Wallace, which I think is also the name of a race car driver, but besides the point.
Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, well that's how they differentiate. Andy Wallace was first. Anyway.
They're cousins.
Yeah, they're distant cousins. So dude produced a lot of stuff. Like Avenged Sevenfold, Three Doors Down, Blink-182, Rise Against, appropriately Stained. I would consider those two pretty similar in genres, and Disturbed, and even Rush.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Wow, see, I dug into it a little bit, but I didn't see that many.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the producer Don Gilmore, which I think I'll give a little bit of a preview. One Step Closer was kind of about Don and his approach to producing that album. To give you a little context on what their relationship was like during recording it.
Interesting.
Well, who was the producer for Rush that they ended up getting rid of because he wanted them to go like a different way?
Terry Brown.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Because he,
kind of what it reminds me of Terry Brown and Rush.
yeah, because with that, I mean, Terry Brown founded them in '76 to record the first album and then record every album till Signals, and then they're like, wait, synth? What is this synth?
We want more. Or sorry, that was just
We want
that was just Getty. Getty just wanted synths.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about Rush on this podcast.
We're talking about Linkin Park.
So, okay, now that we're at this part with production and everything, I wanted to mention some of the other bands that got involved with Linkin Park after Chester's death in 2017, which it's hard to believe that it's 2017. It's almost 3 years ago at this point. Yeah, I remember hearing about that almost like it was yesterday. I was in Chicago at the zoo at the time when I heard it, and it's like I didn't realize how impactful that news was really going to be. I think that it hit a lot of people in the music industry at the time as well, and I think that's further highlighted by the event that they did. So on October 27th in 2017, just a couple months after Chester had passed away, you had people from Blink-182, Korn, Avenged Sevenfold, Yellow Card, Bring Me the Horizon, System of a Down, No Doubt, Orgy, Bush, Sum 41, Machine Gun Kelly, Alanis Morissette, and Steve Aoki all showed up to do like a benefit concert in his name. So that just gives you an idea of what I guess the new metal, or like what the kind of influence Linkin Park had at the time.
Right. Yeah, not only just like how many people were influenced by them, but how many respected him for his craft and his performance, and I'm sure they're all friends with each other too.
I didn't see the news until I got home from work that day, and I don't think I did anything the rest of the night. It was just like complete time stopper. But what I think is really, really crazy is that he passed away on the anniversary of, was it Chris Cornell's birthday? Because he was really, really close friends with Chris Cornell.
Okay.
And I think it was Chris Cornell's birthday. Because when did Chester pass away? What was the date?
I don't know offhand.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was some sort of connection there, because he just couldn't deal with him being gone anymore or something. I read an article on.
Yeah.
Yep, July 20th, 1964, Chris Cornell was born, and Chester Bennington committed suicide on July 20th, 2017.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, just a weird correlation. I don't understand how that stuff lines up sometimes, but
whenever you guys see news like that, and especially this one, did you just like kind of not even believe it? You know?
Yeah, most of the time I don't.
Like, I even went to, you know how to confirm stuff if you go to like Wikipedia and you make sure like, okay, this can't be real because this is terrible, and then you go and you look and you're like, well, you know, what do you do?
I did the same thing when Neil passed away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I was gonna say, there's not a whole lot that you really can do. I mean, unfortunately, that's part of life, right? I mean, people pass away, and the only thing that we can really do now is just to appreciate what they did. You know,
Mhm.
Right.
have their legacy live on and have their works be remembered. I think that's probably the greatest service that we can do. And you know,
Right.
that's honestly that's kind of part of why we're doing this too. Is that these are all, so not only this album but some of the other albums that we're going to be talking about in season 2 have had a real significant effect on, I guess I don't want to speak for you guys, but at least for me personally, they've had a real
Well,
significant effect.
I know there's one album specifically that pretty much fueled and maintained our really strong friendship, Zach, between you and I.
Yep.
So there's definitely a lot of significance in this season. But one thing I wanted to say is, you know, a lot of people, like actors or whatever, people take a lot of, they really mourn their loss a lot. But like for you and us, um, being musicians and being so into these albums, I think part of the fact when a musician passes away is the fact that we're never going to get another release from these people. You know,
Mhm.
we take so much pride in the bands and we get so much enjoyment from the music, and then one of the members passes away and it's just
That's it.
gone.
It's like their releases, their music and their lyrics are basically like they're the connection between us and them, because we don't know them personally, but we know
Right.
what they're feeling. So it's almost like a long distance relationship, if you will, between the artist and
right.
the listener.
Yeah.
Mhm. And
I think that's a whole other episode that we could get into, honestly.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, we're already getting up there with time. We haven't even gotten into the music yet, boys. We haven't even gotten
I know.
in.
I know. I knew this was going to be a bad episode. We're all so musically driven that it's just, we could talk for hours.
Well, what do you say, guys? Should we start diving in to the music?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. First up on the list is Paper Cut.
Something in here's not right today. Why am I so uptight today? Paranoia is all I got left. I don't know what stressed me first and how the pressure was fed, but I know just what it feels like to have a voice in the back of my head. But the face that I hold inside, face that awakes when I close my eyes, face that I watch every time I lie, face that laughs every time I fall. So I know that when it's time to sink or swim, the face inside is hearing me right underneath my skin.
Max, this is where you cue the music in.
Right.
Was this I'm trying to remember single order. Was this the first single from the album? Does anybody have that in their notes?
In terms of singles, huh?
Yeah.
I wasn't under the impression that there were any singles off this album. 'Cause
There
this
were
was
there were 4 singles. One Step Closer, In the End, Crawling, and Paper Cut.
Oh, okay.
So it was the fourth single. Interesting. They didn't even put that single out until 2 years later,
As a single?
or
Oh wow.
until
That was the third single. Yeah. That was the third released single. It reached number 14 on the UK singles chart in 2001.
Okay.
Fancy.
So, did you guys happen to write down the lyrics? I took a glance at your notes before we started. I don't know if you guys had any of, like, I copied all of the lyrics for every single song. So
I did not copy the lyrics. I put in certain parts.
okay.
But no.
So I'm thinking this might be a good way to do it. How about I read some of the lyrics. I'll stop when I have notes written throughout the songs, kind of like scattered about. If you guys have something you want to say, stop me and we can talk about it. But otherwise, I've got the lyrics. We can go through, do some pauses, and just kind of go from there.
All right.
Sounds good?
Deal.
Okay.
Yep.
So, with Paper Cut, we start off with the following lyrics. So, we got, "Why does it feel like night today? Something in here's not right today. Why am I so uptight today? Paranoia's all I got left. I don't know what stressed me first or how the pressure was fed, but I know what it feels like to have a voice in the back of my head.
So with that, there's like a vocal delay at the end of like each sentence, and that's
Mhm.
supposed to be like a contextual relation to like paranoia and schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, like, these first two like segments or verses really are all kind of trying to communicate how he's feeling when he's paranoid or overthinking things around him. So it not only are they paranoid, but it's also affecting them physically, where they're thinking that they're not controlling what it is that they're doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And through that own like
Mm.
non-control is making them feel insecure. So that's what I got. It was almost like a feeling of helplessness coming from
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah, and you can
Right.
hear there's like a little Easter egg. You can hear like a high like strung guitar part or something like in the way background of the song. It's kind of like another contextual relation to like schizophrenia, like seeing things or hearing things that aren't
Hearing
really there.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a theme throughout the whole album too. Is like, I, do you guys happen to know if Chester was the one who wrote most of the lyrics for this, or
I
was
think
it a combined
most.
effort?
I think most of them, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, because that would make a lot of sense, where he's trying to articulate how these emotions are coming across in his head to the people listening.
Right. One thing that I found was Mike Shinoda made a note that Paper Cut is supposed to be um like all of the identity of the band packed into one song, which makes me
Oh,
think that everybody kind of had some sort of internal struggle going on, and maybe, I don't know, Chester brought it out, or I don't know. I think that gives me more questions than answers
mm-hmm.
as far as the writing of the songs, because if it's the identity of every member of the band, then the problems could be way deeper than we think.
Right. I agree. When I was going through and doing the research and, you know, reading all the lyrics, listening to the songs, I really felt like this was a personal story in regards to Chester. I didn't really consider the other members of the band having influence over the lyrics in this case. That was just
Right.
my interpretation, but the fact that you say that brings, like you said, that brings way more questions than it does answers.
Yeah. Exactly. Like that was the first thing I read when I started my research. And from then on I had no idea what to write down for notes, because I went into it with one perception and on.
Out the window. No mas.
No mas.
Right. What you
Sorry,
got?
one last point before we move on. We were wondering if Chester wrote all the songs. From what I can tell, the mass majority of Linkin Park songs were something that the entire band collaborated together on.
Wow. Wow.
So, if one member thought something didn't sound right, they would change it until it did, and they all agreed. So
That's crazy.
that brings a whole nother level of depth to this entire episode, because I think, Zach, at least you and I were under the impression that all of these songs were written by Chester and what he was going through.
Yeah, correct. That's
So
what I thought.
there seems to be some sort of inner turmoil in all of the members of the band.
Maybe not every member, but maybe they at least understood where it was coming from.
I suppose that could be, yeah, that's possible. They were kind of there as a support for him.
I'm sure Chester wrote most of the first couple iterations of the lyrics, and I'm sure like all the other members had things that they wanted to relate to in the lyrics specifically, so they
Right.
probably changed it around a little bit. But I think if you
Maybe.
look online to see the credits for each song, I think they do actually have all the members listed as credits for writing the song.
That's incredible.
Hmm.
I Wow.
You don't get that very often. And
That
I
was-
wonder
yeah.
I wonder if it was because they wanted to kind of distract him from some of what was going on in his head and maybe wanted to keep the lyrics from being too dark, or if they wanted to support what was going on in his head and, make sure he knew that he wasn't alone. I don't know.
Could be a
I don't
little
know
bit of
anymore.
both.
I don't
Yeah.
know anymore. I really don't.
Yeah. Imagine being like a fly on the wall in that studio. What the creative process must have been like. Oh,
Yeah.
like, I can only imagine. Like you said, the fact that they all agreed on it, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's normally a lot of headbutting, and in order to come together and have that teamwork on writing an album is, especially your first album, when you just got together. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. Can't even imagine that.
Very much a family unit, it seems.
Right.
All right. Want me to continue on?
Go. That's all I got for right now. I'll process while you read.
All right. So, like a face that I hold inside, a face that awakes when I close my eyes, a face that watches every time I lie, a face that laughs every time I fall, and watches everything. So I know that when it's time to sink or swim, the face inside is here in me, right underneath my skin. So I'll pause here. I wanted to say that, like, they keep mentioning the face. So this is kind of a theme that comes up in a lot of the other songs, but the face,
Yep.
in this case, at least how I'm taking it to mean, is an indication of that it's a different person, right? This
Yep.
paranoia is always present, and it doesn't matter who, when, where. It's always there, and it's something that affects nearly every aspect of the sing. I'm in my notes. I said like the singer, so
Yeah,
in
the
this
subject.
case,
Yeah.
the subject matter. So I'm saying the singer, like in this case, like we just discussed, the band in this case. It's something that's, it's omnipresent, and it can often feel like important decisions hinge on the very essence of like this person's paranoia. The decisions that they're making in their mind are super important, but they're being controlled by someone or something that they view to be not themselves, which is paranoia in this case.
And going back to Max's point on the vocal delay in this song and the link to schizophrenia, this is a link to schizophrenia as well. I mean, this could be a voice in their head. The face inside could be the voice in their head telling them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Paranoia is a very, very big symptom of schizophrenia.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, this whole song could just be, I mean, I don't know where the title comes from. I'm trying to think of some relation, but
I think, like, to go back to the title, I think maybe it has to do with the fact that it's manageable. Like a paper cut, it's annoying, it's nagging, but it's there,
yeah.
right? Like you
I was just
feel
gonna
it.
I was just gonna say it's shallow, but it's enough to maybe expose the face inside. It's not
Mhm.
real deep, so it's manageable, but it's still a hole, and it's able to let things inside escape.
Yeah, I think it's probably along those lines where, maybe it's not super noticeable, but if you are the one that has the paper cut, it's the one
You
thing,
know about it.
right? You know about it. You're trying to do everything in your power to make it so that it doesn't hurt, You're not going to put
And it might not be
alcohol.
life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It might not be life-changing, but it's painful and hard to deal with at times.
Yeah. Max, any thoughts on that?
No, I was just trying to think of what that name comes from, but I think you guys have a pretty good idea of how that could possibly relate. Because I thought it was just like a. All right, guys, we got to come up with a name for the song. Oh, I just got a paper cut on the.
Oh shit! I pulled this sheet of paper out of my hand too fast.
Dude, you got to watch out for those manila folders. They'll get you good.
Those are sharp.
But the vanilla folders are delicious.
Those things got a serrated edge, I swear.
Serrated edge.
There's like a segment in Jackass where they take those folders and just
Oh.
cut the webbings of his fingers. Oh man.
Yeah, Steve-O. Yeah.
No thanks. I'll pass. That's a
Nope.
hard
Big no.
pass. Okay, so now we're getting into, I think this is the chorus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we start off with just Chester saying, "It's like I'm paranoid looking over my back. It's like a whirlwind inside of my head. It's like I can't stop when I'm hearing within. It's like the face inside is right beneath my skin."
Beneath my skin.
And then we got Mike and Chester saying, "I know I've got a face in me. Points out all my mistakes to me. You've got a face on the inside too. Your paranoia is probably worse." I want to stop right there because of the last line in that. Your paranoia is probably worse.
Yeah. So it's trying to normalize their condition and assume that everybody else has it and they're not an odd one out.
Mm-hmm. Not only
Which
that,
is kind of a. Go ahead.
I was gonna say not only that, but it also gives like a little bit of hope to the song where they
Right.
have. It's almost like rationalization, right? Where they have all
Yeah.
these internal demons and feelings, but they're also trying to make it normal, like you said, where, other people
Right.
are probably going through this too. So, what I have is bad and I don't like it, but there's probably other people out there that have it even worse, as the line
Yeah.
says.
Like you hit that anxiety point and you go, well, I'm screwed. But then you go, oh, well, no, it's okay. Everybody else probably deals with this as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's weird because that line, it sticks out. Like it doesn't rhyme. It doesn't go with the beat first half of the song. So it's like,
And
it's important to the song itself.
and there's a longer pause after that line than there is for the rest of that verse.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sits on that for a second just so it can, soak in.
Mm-hmm. So they really add emphasis to that. And I think it further highlights the fact that they wrote this as a group. It would be one thing to just say everything else in the song, but again, they're bringing everybody else into it, right? They're talking about the listener, they're talking about the listener in this case. I think they're addressing the person there.
I mean, I don't know if they were maybe trying to connect with people at the time with the changing cultures and whatever, but maybe just giving people a glimmer of hope. I don't know. There's so many, I don't know. There's so many things that are running through my head with this whole album, but
I know. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up with like a glimmer of hope because I couldn't tell you the exact spots and the exact songs, but I remember going through all the other ones that there's like a couple different lines in almost every song that conveys the message of just like a little bit of hope, right? The rest of the song is like real kind of down, like angsty, hopelessness feeling. But then you have a couple different lines sprinkled throughout that give you like a little bit of hope that, hey, maybe things aren't as bad as they seem. Maybe we can get better. So that's one of the themes that comes up a lot in this album, which it's interesting because I think it would be really easy to just go down that hole and just be down, this sucks and I'm just going to wallow in this. But they chose not to. I don't know if it was maybe somebody in the band or how they were feeling at the time, but they chose to give listeners a little bit of hope, which I think is a good thing.
Right.
Oh.
Very much so.
Yeah. All right. Next couple lines. I don't know what set me off first, but I know what I can't stand. Everybody acts like the fact of the matter is I can't add up to what you can. So we got more feelings of inadequacy, further amplifying their feelings of paranoia.
Insuperiority.
Mm-hmm. And that's so before we go any further, I just wanted to say that with a lot of the songs on this album, I think they conveyed the message in the first half of the song really, really well, and then repeated it over and over again in the second half.
Yeah.
Like in
I
my
agree.
notes, I wrote a bunch of stuff in the first half, and then I have nothing because I'm like, yep, it's the
Yep,
same.
that's exactly how
Yep,
mine are.
that's the same way for me. Yep. I'm like, well, I already covered this, so we're just gonna see what happens.
Dude's paranoid. We get it.
Right? Yeah, he's got issues. Not Sports Illustrated.
So they repeat the chorus again. So there was one thing that I wanted to note with the chorus. So with the second iteration of it, they say, so you know that when it's time to sink or swim, the face inside is watching you too, right inside your skin. So they've changed it this time to underneath my skin to underneath your skin. So
further normalization.
right. They're further normalizing that not only is this paranoia affecting them, but they are assuming that it's affecting the other people around them as well.
Right.
Thought it was important to note that.
Yeah, it went from, venting to comparison.
Yeah. Okay. We got this. So we got, it's like a paranoid looking over my back. It's like a whirlwind inside of my head. It's like I can't stop what I'm hearing within. It's like the face inside is right beneath my skin. And then we kind of go into like a weird, and that repeats. We go into a bridge section where we have, and they're saying the face inside is right beneath the skin 3 times. But then the important part, at least to me, is Chester comes in. He says, the sun goes down. I feel the light betray me. The sun goes down. I feel the light betray me. Did you guys have any notes on that part at all?
I didn't have notes on it, but I have a lot of mental analysis that's just inside my head. The sun goes down as a metaphor, I think, for when you go to sleep and you feel the light betray you. When you're sleeping and there's nothing to occupy your time or your brain, all of your thoughts just pour in and you can't ignore them. So at the end of the day, when all the busy work is done and it's just you and the darkness and your mind, everything just sets in and you really start to realize what's going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it too, the way he sings "The Sun Goes Down," it's almost like a lullaby.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very soft and
Goes down. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's almost like, like a lullaby, like going to sleep.
Yeah, I just realized that, to be honest.
I think they use the sun and the moon a lot. Like the sun goes down seems to be kind of, the sun setting seems to be a recurring theme in the album, and I think it's just talking about when you're alone, when you're not doing anything. At the end of the day, when you're just all you have is you and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So,
and that's when stuff really sinks in.
So what song is it? Yes, I agree with you. I think that this metaphor of like the sun has 2 meanings. Because so I'm kind of jumping the gun, but it's important to our analysis here. If you go down to song number 9, A Place for My Head, it starts with the same metaphor of a sun and a moon. So I watch how the moon sits in the sky in the dark night, shining with the light from the sun.
Shining light with the sun.
And the sun doesn't give to the moon, assuming the moon's going to owe it one. So the sun and the moon is a metaphor that comes up multiple times throughout the album. And I took the sun to be dual purpose. In the case that in this song, they're talking about how during the day when they're around other people, they put on a face, that's repeated throughout the song. Face inside is right beneath your skin. They're putting on a face to kind of hide these feelings of paranoia from the people around them. But then at night, when maybe they're not around people, their paranoia, it really starts to affect them more than it does during the day.
Yep.
They let their guard down.
They don't have to act like they're okay anymore.
Mm-hmm. So not only does it have that effect of like the actual time of day, but I think as we'll find out a little bit later in the album, the sun is also a person in their life as
Yeah.
well.
When you covered those lyrics from A Place for My Head, I really had a good analysis on that part. So I need to either cover it now or remember it.
Why don't you do both? I mean, you could
Okay,
go into
well,
it now if it relates to
I'll
what we're
reiterate.
talking about.
So I watch how the moon sits in the sky in the dark night, shining with the light from the sun, and the sun doesn't give light to the moon, assuming that the moon's gonna owe it one. So that means that when you're in public, everybody is giving you some sort of, they're lending you their energy, they're giving you the motivation to keep going and hiding your problems without them expecting you to thank them for keeping you going throughout the day.
Yeah, I see that.
That's what I get from that. I mean, so it's like you're just borrowing their energy because you don't have the moon can't produce its own light. So what he's saying here,
dude, I fucking said the
is-
same thing down in my notes.
the moon can't produce its own light. So it's saying that you're expecting other people to give you their energy to keep going throughout the day, and then while you're alone, there's no longer an external source of energy. Sorry for stealing your notes, but
No.
ESP.
I'm like super happy that you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking too when I went through it.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
awesome.
it's external source motivation. I mean, and then once you get back in your own home away from, the public, you don't have that anymore.
Mhm.
So, but you don't feel the need to reciprocate the favor because you assume that everybody else around you is just fine and doesn't need that extra motivation.
Right.
So that's I wanted to get that out before I forgot it. So.
Oh, well said. That's all I got for Paper Cut. Anything else from you, gents?
That's all I got
Max, all good?
as well.
Yeah, you guys covered a lot of context within that song.
Sweet. We're off to a bit of a heavy start here with Paper Cut, man.
Yeah, right.
And I'm glad that you guys had different notes on like production and numbers and stuff too with the band. Like that's why I'm happy we did our notes all separately because I think we all had very different interpretations already. I can tell from the first one.
Yep.
So.
Oh, another production note I forgot to add. Guess how many times they pitched their album to labels?
Oh yeah, I saw
You
that.
saw that?
Like
15.
It was like
44.
It was like no. Yeah, it was like 50 times, 40 times, 50 times.
Really?
Yep.
What was the number, Max? Sorry.
It was 44.
Yeah, and they just didn't give up. Yeah, I thought that was
Wow.
incredible. Like they knew they had something.
So imagine you have an album such as Hybrid Theory, and some dude has his indie rock album. Like, think about like you have an album that good, you still have to try to get your music out there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Man,
And
don't give up.
New.
May not be the first
Can
time.
you imagine?
May not be the second.
Can you
time.
imagine playing a demo tape 44 times?
Damn.
At some point, you'd just be like, I watch how the moon sits in the sky.
No,
You fucking like this song yet?
If they were gonna pitch it like 50 times, he would have been like, "I've given up."
Right? I've tried so hard.
Yeah. Well, it did matter in this case. So
Yes, it did.
it really did.
Oh man.
And with that, we're just I think that closes the chapter on song 1 and we're one step closer to the end of this album.
I see what you did there. You shiesty bitch.
Let's roll on into song number 2 on Hybrid Theory, One Step Closer.
Cannot take this anymore. Saying everything I've said before.
You like that one?
Oh,
Is that a good
was
segue?
good. That was good.
I've never cringed so hard in my life.
Max
felt
is
the
over there like,
cringe.
you people. I hate
All right, so
you. I guess,
yeah, you got stuff already?
yeah. Well, I was going to say, I feel like the main touch of this song is being in a close relationship, but slowly growing apart and realizing why it's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how that differs from what you have, but
Um, I'm trying to go through my notes here really quick.
So, like I was saying in the production, I thought this was just a huge middle finger to their producer. But I don't know if they made the song before they even got in the studio, to be honest. But it may have been just perceived that way after they were in the studio or something. I couldn't tell you. But I think in the broader picture, I think it's just a song that is just, if you get worked up to a certain point, like, you're gonna explode in someone's face.
What did you say, Ryan? What was your interpretation?
I feel like it touches on the mental struggles of being in a close relationship or growing apart and not knowing why it's happening, but also I don't remember what line it is exactly. I'd have to pull up the lyrics, but there's one that touched me as saying, you know, also having nightmares about being responsible for the decline of the relationship, like knowing that part of you growing apart was your doing.
Yeah, and those types of like themes, I guess they're touched on a lot more in some of the other songs too. I think that like the whole relationship thing is definitely a part of this song, but I took it to be more along the lines of just having trouble trying to express the emotions and the feelings that you have, where like Max said, you're just getting to that point where you're so frustrated with even yourself that the only way to like make things better is just to get away from everybody else. You're about to, like they say, they're about to break, they're about to explode in anger. So I think that plays into the relationship. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't get the whole relationship part of this song just quite yet, but I see where you're coming from.
I'm looking at the lyrics right now. I'm trying to figure out where I got that from. Yeah.
I've got all the lyrics here. I mean, we'll get to it eventually. Maybe you'll find it.
So I do know that I didn't write it in my notes, but I do remember reading it. There was a note online I saw that with lyrics, like lyrical content, their producer tried to step in a lot to change things around to what he wanted. So I think that's like when he says, "Shut up when I'm talking to you." I think he kept interjecting into what he had to say in his songs. So that's kind of where I started to make sense when I started reading into it. But I think that's where most of the song's anger came from. I didn't really see a lot of relationship context in this song as much as everything. Honestly, most of the other songs are about relationships.
I suppose I may have misinterpreted it. I mean, I kind of looked at it as everything you say to me takes me one step closer to the edge, as being, a fight between two people that are close to each other. But
it could be another interpretation from him as well. Who knows?
Now that I'm looking at the lyrics, my notes,
Well, let's get on into it. Let's see if we can decode this message.
You know what? I was reading the next song, so disregard everything I just said.
I was gonna say a lot of the next ones were about abusive relationships.
Yeah. Okay, so on this one, it said it really speaks for people who have a lot of anxiety and overthink.
Yeah.
So Chester's singing about being perfectly content with just blocking out jumbled and repetitive thoughts because you've had them so much that it's just normalcy at that point. And
Yep.
the lyric "Wish I could find a way to disappear" is wanting a way to run from the thoughts and just get them out of your head.
So, all right, here, let me go do some lyrics here. Let's keep her rolling. So we got, I cannot take this anymore, saying everything I've said before. All these words, they make no sense. I find bliss in ignorance. Less I hear, the less you say. You'll find that out anyway. Again, confusion about what it is exactly they're feeling or what they're trying to convey. Overwhelmed by those feelings of like anxiety and paranoia that we heard in the last song, and trying to make the right decision.
Right.
Yeah.
I just had a thought.
Right.
Do you think... Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to even put... Do you think that the song list of this album is a progression in the subject's journey of accepting mental issues?
That is one way to put it. Yes, I think that
And the life struggle.
I think that it tells the story of a life struggle and what the collective. Again, in my notes I wrote what the singer went through and how they decided to deal with their emotions and what they ended up doing. Yeah,
the progression of acceptance or treatment or what have you.
Right. I think that first.
No,
you're.
Go ahead.
I think you're right. I'm curious what Max thinks about this, but I thought that the first half or like most of the album is about describing their feelings and, the difficulties that they've had with their relationships, and then it ultimately gets to this breaking point and their indecision of what they need to do. But then it goes into the aftermath of those decisions and dealing with them and, what that looks like. So I think very much a story is told.
Well,
so after the chorus, we've got, I find the answers aren't so clear. Wish I could find a way to disappear. All these thoughts, they make no sense. I find bliss in ignorance. Nothing seems to go away, over and over again. So much like the line says, a lot of the lines are repeated too. And I suspect that like the feelings that they are having are pretty constant. Like it's almost like deja vu to them,
Right.
Every time they get into this situation and they can't figure out how they want to talk about or convey their emotions to the people around them. It's like it's circular, right? It just their indecision keeps building on their own anxiety, and as a result they have more indecision. So it's like it's a vicious circle, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I've felt that before. I mean, you don't want to burden people with your venting or your questions, and then you wonder what's going to happen if you relay it to people, or what's going to happen if you don't relay it to people. So the repetitiveness is definitely a big thing.
And speaking of repetitiveness, the rest of the song is pretty repetitive, so I'm not even going to bother reading it.
No.
Again, the bridge section of him saying like "shut up when I'm talking to you." I thought that was really interesting, Max, that you said that was more from a production standpoint than anything. So
yeah,
I see the production standpoint, but I wonder if this connects again to this schizophrenia thing that we touched on in the beginning, because you can't tell the voices to stop.
I mean, you can, but I don't know that they're going to.
I mean, you can, but it's hard to. So I wonder if it's more of there's, background voices in your head and you're trying to get them to stop, but they don't listen.
Could be a combination of both, with someone physically telling you about, someone butting heads with you, and then on top of that, the voices inside that are also you're fighting with. Could be just everything that's building you up to explode.
Mhm.
Right.
I think Max,
Yeah, I
I think Max, you're probably right. Probably a combination of all these different things.
Right. People around you telling you that there's nothing wrong with you and you just need to, deal with it or,
Like, come on, man, figure it out.
yeah.
You got
Right?
it.
You're just be normal.
I love that.
Oh, why
It's
did I
funny.
think of that? I'll just be normal. I got it.
I love that in my notes I write like little things that I would say, but like it's funny reading them back. At the end of my notes for this song, I'm like, overall, this one's just a huge headbanger.
Yeah. Against the wall. Preferably with some spikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect. I expected this episode to be interesting, but I'm realizing more things listening to what you guys are saying than I did just listening to the songs and breaking them down for myself. It's turning out to be a much more head turner than I thought.
It's fun seeing all the notes that we have that we all saw like independently. We're all like, oh yeah, I saw that too. But it's fun seeing things that I might know that you guys don't, or a lot of things you guys are interpreting and knowing that I don't know.
Mhm.
Right.
It's
Yeah, it's
half the fun.
it's incredible the different interpretations that one person can get from a song versus another person.
And that always brings up, what's the correct interpretation? Case.
Right, and we
Is
may
there a
never know.
correct interpretation?
Exactly. Yeah.
Even
And
going
Chester
through
might have taken that with him.
even going through like Genius, where there's like notes on lyrics and stuff per line.
Yeah.
Some of them are just assumptions. Most of them are just assumptions.
Right.
Yep.
So it's like
They're
you really
doing exactly what we're doing.
right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Thing with like Genius and looking at those though, it's not nearly as fleshed out. I think a lot of people, at least in that particular example, look at the lyrics or maybe just the songs isolated, right? So you only get the meaning that's in the song. But when
Mhm.
you consider the song order in the album, like we're doing right now, Max, your point before about, having it tell a story or like a biography of a character that the band agrees with, you don't get that kind of analysis when you look at one song.
No.
No. It's just it's open ended, but it's not at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've
If you
talked
do a
about
single
this.
song.
We've talked about this before on the podcast, but the medium for how the songs are made, like with vinyls or just the order of the songs on like a CD, just anything that's like a finite medium, it matters. And especially with bands like Rush, they wanted to fill up the entire side of an album and really give people the most value for their dollar. I mean,
Right.
vinyls aren't they weren't cheap and they still aren't cheap to get a vinyl.
No.
I mean,
Mm.
it's crazy how much the actual medium for how you listen to the song plays into why it was done the way it was. Why a certain song was put in this order or why the lyrics are the way that they are. So
Funny you bring up
and-
vinyl too, because that was like the first vinyl I bought when I got my collection started.
Hybrid Theory?
Yep.
Hell yeah.
You have Hybrid Theory on vinyl?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. This episode's over. So you bring up a good point though, because like with vinyl, you have obviously a finite amount of space. So how do you choose which songs go where and where you end the story? You know what, Max? Okay. But yeah, you gotta choose your songs carefully because you have that certain amount of space and you want to get out everything. You want each side to make sense together is I guess what I'm saying.
Or you can
So-
you're just gonna
I'm just
finish
gonna
it
hold
up
it
just
the
gonna
like
keep it
entire
with me.
time. Just gonna hold it.
As long as I have
Shut
to.
I shut my camera off.
Good thing we're at the end of the episode.
Yeah, right.
Max's
People,
arms might
watch
get
this on
tired.
YouTube. You'll get the visual reference. Fuck you, Matt.
Well,
That's another
All
thing
right.
about vinyl too, though. I have to add, for people that don't actually buy vinyl or anything like that, you miss out on a lot of sweet artwork that you get.
You do, yes.
Mhm.
The sleeve artwork is incredible.
You get to see very high resolution pictures of the band. Some come with like lyric sheets and other
Yep.
miscellaneous behind the scenes stuff, which I think is really cool.
dude, I miss
And a lot of
I miss
vinyls,
the lyric.
a lot of the vinyls, the artwork around the center of the vinyl is almost better than the album cover itself. They put, sort of behind the scenes pictures or a different iteration of the vinyl, the cover artwork.
Right. Exactly.
There's a lot of room for artistic freedom, as you would
Mhm.
say.
Well, back in the day, like I was around.
Back in the day, back.
But before digital media was a thing, I mean, vinyls were the main way that bands communicated with their fans. I mean, besides going and seeing them in concert or on the radio, I mean, that was how bands gave information to their fans. So
Right.
there was a lot of room, I guess, is a way to put it, to add little
Yeah.
extra bits for their fans, whether it's pictures. The lyrics, I'm sure, helped a ton of people because they're like, what the hell did that guy say? And they're
Right.
like, oh yeah.
To give further confirmation on Mike Shinoda's involvement, it says on here, literally credits for soldier drawing Mike Shinoda, and then underneath that it says line art sketches and drawings Joseph Hahn and Mike Shinoda.
Oh,
So
Wow.
cool.
so
they
Mr.
they
Hahn
didn't really have a lot of external help as far as artwork.
no, they might have
Not
felt
this
that
one.
what his experience had might have been able to correlate with how they wanted their art direction to go instead of having
Right.
someone else do it.
They also probably didn't have a lot of money too, because they were
No.
starting off.
But regardless of their budget, just the history behind this album is incredible, and I cannot wait to get into the second part of this episode.
Yeah, I think you said it well, Ryan. I think that we're already over on time, so we better wrap up part 1 of the Linkin Park's hybrid theory, and conclude episode 1 of season 2. We're off to the races.
Woo!
Yeah,
Yeah.
Episode one.
episode 1
Starting
done.
Another chapter.
Awesome. Yeah. For those of you who made it this far and listened along with us, thank you. Appreciate it. Follow us on the social medias. You can find us at the Muddled Thoughts Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, Muddled Thoughts Podcast on Facebook. Again, feel free to send us a message at muddledthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. Be happy to get back to you. And I think that does it. So,
And also subscribe to our newly started YouTube channel, Muddled Thoughts. Is
That's
it Muddled
true.
Thoughts Cast or Muddled Thoughts Podcast?
let me take a look.
I think it might just be Muddled Thoughts. It's so new, I don't remember.
Gotta be ready to plug that YouTube channel.
Like and subscribe.
One
Punch
like.
that like bell.
It's Muddled Thoughts Podcast on
Okay.
YouTube. So, yeah.
Gotta do the Davey thing where you slap the camera.
Yeah,
Slap.
Dave
Slap
Letterman,
like
boy.
now.
Slap at the base.
All right, peeps. Till next time, keep it real. Don't be dumb.
Keep your glasses full. Deuces.
Yeah.
Yeah.